broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows. Interviewing celebrities and showrunners. And bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
So intense.
Very intense.
Too intense here. This whole entire season has been intense here of Defiance.
It's an intense season, man.
Season 3.
Just like camping.
That's right. We're at the midway. We're at the midway point of this season, episode 7.
Yeah.
The beauty of our weapons. But before we get started, just want to introduce ourselves. I'm Scott Moore. You can find me on the old Twitter at SMan80. That's SMan80. And to my left, it's not Steve. It is.
Hi, I'm Jesse Klein, and you can find me at JessKlein1. That's JessKlein, the number 1.
That's right, because you are always number 1 to me.
Thank you.
So, what did you think of overall thoughts of this episode?
I thought this was a good episode. I think it's a lot of tying up loose ends. I think, at the end of the last episode, it really felt like we were going to get, the VC attacking Defiance this episode. And instead it was kind of, which I thought was really interesting because there was no, tension to the build-up. It was just like, shoot, they're going to attack.
Yeah.
And instead we kind of got this episode that was kind of a build-up. The threat didn't feel as looming, even though they had, the guy posing as a human and they're drilling, all that kind of stuff that we'll get into.
Yeah.
It didn't really feel, we didn't get anything from Rom Talk. It didn't really feel like a looming threat, but
yeah.
I guess it kind of just closed a couple storylines and kind of helped us get ready for the big invasion episode.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I don't think there was a lot that happened this episode. It was just a lot of preparing.
Yeah.
At the same time, there was a lot of things that changed the landscape of Defiance. So that's interesting.
Yeah, it's sort of the midway point of the season, and like you said, it's like they had a lot of different directions they could kind of go in, and so they needed this episode to kind of tie up some loose ends and kind of set the stage for the second half of the season.
Yeah.
Which, again, like you said, I was thinking, is it not as ominous of a threat because now we know that Rom Talk is not as powerful as we thought? Or because I was kind of watching it and thinking, maybe I'm feeling that way because now I'm realizing, okay, he doesn't have the full backing of the VC, so maybe I'm not feeling like it's his threat anymore. Now it's more of this ragtag team. Or is it, like you said, is it just the fact that they didn't make it present it that way because they were kind of busy tying up loose ends and doing other things here to kind of get us prepared for the biggers?
Well, I mean, this entire season so far has been we don't have as many weapons as Rom Talk has. Well, now they have weapons. We don't have as many soldiers as Rom Talk has. Now they've got soldiers. Yeah. Even though it's a ragtag group of soldiers, it's like, these guys at least seem like they can shoot a gun. And so and we didn't see any in the other episodes we actually see Rom Talk, or we hear he's got a cannon, or he's got
exactly
and this
and a lot of action that this one didn't really have. Like you were saying, a lot of action, characters were threatened or killed, and you weren't quite necessarily feeling that as much in this episode overall.
I mean, because Rom Talk is kind of a loose cannon, it's like a broken knife. It's like you don't know how it's going to cut. It's scary. This guy is insane.
Yeah.
He might take over Defiance and then kill all of his men as well. Who knows what Rom Talk is doing?
He is crazy. I mean, saw what he did with his wife.
Yeah.
So, he's definitely has no fear of doing whatever he needs to do to get where he wants to be here, which is, taking over the pink skins.
So I mean, I didn't feel as threatened by him, but I thought that the storyline, the stories that happened throughout the show, were really interesting. We got to see a lot of different aspects of different characters that we haven't really seen yet, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I love that that, Conrad comes in,
It's the corniest entrance.
It was like Steve Sanders.
Yeah, I was
rolling into town.
I was really upset with that cheesy entrance from Conrad von Bach. I know what they were going for.
Oh, it was so but it didn't play right.
It was like generic, like they didn't get licensing to any a rock and roll song, so it was like generic.
Oh yeah, it was so bad.
Like porn rock and roll.
Yeah, it was
like
terrible.
Just like in the background, and it was like, I don't get this, and I was like, this is the corniest
That's
entrance.
exactly what I wrote here in the notes. Cheesily comes rolling into town with Benedict the Bioman. It was like so bad, and all of a sudden he just has this gift of weapons now.
Yeah.
It's just save the day. That was a really easy thing. Like, he just feels that he has to do this now. It's the right thing to do.
Do you think he did it all? I mean, I feel like there's got to be an ulterior motive.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't think he did it all just for Berlin.
No, it was so cheesy with that too. It was like, cost zero.
Yeah. Like there has to have been something that he's getting out of this.
Yeah.
Like, he's got to profit somehow out of this.
That's what I was thinking too. At first I thought, well, maybe not all the weapons are going to work right or something. He's giving them the rejects. Like, there was something that I was thinking that just didn't add up, because he's not just doing this from the goodness of his heart because he wants to woo Berlin back. But
I thought maybe he was gonna do, how he did that voice activation thing. I thought he was like, I'm giving the weapons away for free.
Yeah.
But for the voice activation, it's going to cost you
right. Exactly. There's another thing.
Of money. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, either they're defective, or there's some other way that he's going to get something out of it, because it just doesn't make sense. What that is, I'm not really sure, because it was such an odd.
Yeah, it was kind of a clunky introduction to the character.
Yeah.
And it's like, maybe, like, because we don't know this guy, like, maybe he is like this romantic guy that is like, I did it all for you, Berlin.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the case, then okay, weird kind of, but all right. But like, because we don't know the guy, we don't really know what our read on him is, other than he's an arms dealer from like a wealthy
Very wealthy family. Yeah.
That profits from wars. So I guess this guy's a bad guy, or a baddish guy. He's a rogue.
Yes, he is rogue, and I think we're going to discover that as we go further along, because Berlin gets swept back in again with him, and it was a misunderstanding that his mom was just trying to break them up, and it was a whole easy way to kind of tie that up and have her basically want to head out of town with him.
Man, that I was so angry at that when Berlin went to Amanda, and
that was a great scene. It
was a really good scene.
Because Amanda was, I wrote down some of the stuff too with like what she had said was like, and it was so good. Yeah,
there were a lot of really good quotes in this episode, but the whole thing with Amanda and Berlin, it's such a betrayal. Like, I was like, she's such a coward. Like,
she is. I mean, she said, I'm your family. You can't turn your back on me right now. And basically, blatantly calls her a coward.
And Berlin says family has to protect me.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's her job to protect her family. Like, Berlin should be the one protecting. She's not the little girl in the streets anymore.
Exactly.
She's the one who has military training.
Right.
She's the one who can help protect Defiance. And instead, she's running away with her boyfriend with this sweet truck.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
a bioman.
Right. And what is the, why do you think that he's so quick to want to leave town?
Well, I mean, I think she's quick to leave because, from what we got from her very small backstory is that, she's always been on the run. Mm-hmm. And the only time she wasn't on the run was when she felt safe with the E-Rep. And now that she has a chance to run to be safe again, she's doing it again because that's what she always does.
Yeah. And then why would he feel the need to want to run away so bad? That's where I was kind of like...
Oh, because he knows that the VC are going to attack.
Yeah.
He knows the guns he gave the VC.
That's what I was thinking. That's where it goes back to the whole thing where he's thinking okay, well, Defiance has no way of standing up on its own. Even though he's giving them the weapons, it was to me, it was a very clear thing where he didn't think they were going to be able to defeat the VC.
I mean, even if he does think that they can defeat the VC, you don't want to be in an active war zone.
Yeah.
So he's just getting out of there because, I mean, you don't want to be there.
But that's where it goes back to saying, Amanda calling Berlin a coward, it makes him, obviously, a coward too, to basically hand off all the weapons and be like, I'm out.
I think in order to be a coward, you have to have, you have to have morals to begin with and, honor to begin with. because you have to turn against that. And since he doesn't have any honor and he doesn't have any morals, I don't think he's a coward. I think he's just this guy who does whatever he wants.
Right, so because he's rich and he just has gone on life doing whatever he wants to do and no repercussions kind of thing. So it goes back to saying then what you're saying, he's not a good person.
Yeah, Berlin is running away from the people that she is promised to protect by being a law.
And you've taken care of her when she's been down and have looked after her.
That's cowardly. I think.
Right. That's a good point. I like that.
Yeah, I think that Conrad is just being Conrad doesn't have that kind of sense of justice, doesn't have any of that. So he's not cowardly, he's just a jerk.
Yeah.
Like, that's just who he is. And I think we actually see some very interesting later on with the other storylines, like about like what it is to have a code of honor and like what it means to follow that through the end. But yeah, I think I also think at the end when Nolan gives that amazing speech we'll get to later, but and
political speech too.
and we see Berlin kind of watching it. I feel like there was a moment there where it's like, oh, maybe Berlin's playing a different game that we don't know. That in order for Conrad to believe her that she had to like betray her friends, but she's gonna come back with like better weapons or more people or something. Like, I don't know. I feel like Berlin maybe she's playing a different game. I just don't want her to be this coward person that runs away, but she might just be a coward.
Or that, or is she just so caught up in the love thing right now too that she doesn't want him to leave without her? Like, she's now thinking, oh my gosh, I had the wrong impression about him this whole time. We're thinking that she's the wrong impression about him. That was really his mom that was meddling. And now she's like, I don't want to lose him again, so I'm going to give up everything I have to go run off with him.
But I think Amanda had a good point that if he really loved her, he'd wait.
Well, that's what I was saying. Exactly. That's what I was kind of saying. Like, he obviously has ulterior motives, like we were saying, and he's not a good guy. Yeah. And he's dragging her out because there's something else going on there. And yeah. I
mean, at the same time, if there was someone that I loved and they were in a war zone,
I'd want them out
I would do whatever I could to get them out of that war zone as well. So, I mean, maybe again, we just don't know enough about this guy to really make any, we're just guessing at his motives and who he is, but it could be literally anything.
Yeah, I mean, what do you guys out there think? I mean, I know everyone has some great comments and everything. You can subscribe on YouTube, on iTunes and SoundCloud, and you can also join us on the conversation on Twitter with hashtag #ABTVDefiance. There's been some great stuff even on Twitter. Yeah. Just some questions from people on what they think, and we'd love to hear from you too. Like, what do you think? Is Von Bach a bad guy? What is his motives? What was his motives of just giving the weapons to Defiance? Is Berlin a coward, or is she's so deeply in love she can't see anything away from that, and she just wants to run away with him?
She wasn't...
Lots of stuff, yeah.
I mean, the problem I had with it is, like, I give them more credit. I give the writers of the show and the showrunner more credit that Berlin wasn't acting like someone who was in love. And, like, actions always speak louder than words, and she was saying things like she was in love.
Yeah.
She was saying that she wanted to give it a chance, but none of her actions, other than leaving Defiance, seemed like she was in love. And I think that it was she saw an opportunity to run away, and she was using that opportunity.
Right.
That this is just who Berlin is.
So you do think she's using this as a catalyst to just leave,
to get out? Yeah.
Interesting.
It's a war zone. Like, she's
right. No, it's an interesting theory. Because I did kind of take it a little bit of both. I felt like she was in love because she thought, like, her impression of him was off when she kind of somewhat learned the truth, and now she was, like, kind of giving him a second chance, and she thought this was the way to kind of move on because he was ready to go, that she should go with him. And then I also took it as her being a little bit like, okay, we're going to lose this. We're not prepared. These troops we're trying to put together from the town, the ragtag team here, is not working out. So I kind of took a little bit of both, though, but I did feel like she genuinely did feel like she was giving him a second chance, and because he was wanting to leave, she wasn't going to let him go this time, so she was going to go with him.
If that's the case, I felt like that was lazily handled. If she legitimately was in love with him, and like it didn't seem like it.
Well, I was thinking she was in love with him, but he was, had ulterior motives, and
yeah. But I'm just saying, like, just from Berlin's point of view, it did not seem like she was in love with him at all this entire show. Like, she didn't act like it. There were no. It seems like that it just went from her hating him to her being in love with him, which to me means like she was saying she was in love because
she wanted a way out.
She saw a way out.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as we've seen in this episode, she clearly loved Tommy, and that even came back again. And the passion that she had for him, like she's like about how he's great and had a great ass, kind and smart and had a great ass. But so clearly, she's still dealing with that because she loved him.
Yes.
And there was no doubt about that.
Yeah.
So I will take that I did see a little bit different stuff with her with Von Bach, but I wasn't quite sure where to draw the line, if it was all for her to get out or if there was a little bit of both there. It was so I'd love to hear from everyone out there too what they thought about that, because like you said, there's a lot to that relationship that I'm still trying to figure out, and we don't know a lot about his background, and we don't know really a lot about their relationship before to know how it all comes through. But it was pretty crazy that she was so ready to get out that easily. Yeah. I was surprised by that.
I was upset about that.
Yeah.
That she would just abandon Defiance like that.
Yeah. But, he tries to do all the right things. Even has a Douglas Sirk film playing when she comes in, because he knows that she loves that. And, there's just definitely something creepy there that I'm just, still trying to figure out.
Yeah, last time we saw a guy who was trying to seduce a woman with a film, it was creepy footage that he had recorded of her.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like you're automatically thinking, okay, another creepy guy comes rolling into town, and again with a bioman and everything. It's just never any good when we got a bioman in tow.
And the cheesiest entrance ever.
Yes, and ever in TV history. Yeah. But we also have Daytak getting his punishment now, because we open with that and watch his trial, and unanimously they all say he's to be put to death for treason.
They chose all the black Moncala beads.
Everybody unanimous down the line there.
Nolan made sure that he saw that he was putting it in.
Little brat. But it was interesting because to see them do that in front of him too, I was like, that's a different way of kind of seeing your punishment and your crime, is actually watching everyone choose it right in front of your face.
I actually kind of like that. Like, you have to look at the person that you're sentencing to death.
Right, and they have to see you
that you were doing it. Yeah.
God, that would make it a lot tougher, I think. I think a lot more people would go free if they had to do that.
Maybe, yeah.
Because if you had to actually sit in front of the person you're convicting and have to show them, like, I'm putting you to death.
Yeah.
It'd be a lot different thing. And he basically, being loyal and everything, he doesn't want to die the human way.
Yeah, well, he was a little bit of a brat when he was like, did my wife give you those marks on your face?
Yeah, because it's a good look on you.
It's a good look. Yeah.
Of course he was. He put his little pot shot in there.
Yeah, well, he had that great interaction with Alec, or Lack, where he's saying, like, I want to see my grandson, and he's like, no, you because you sided with the VC, they would have come in and killed my half-human son. Mm-hmm. You chose me without giving me a chance to die with honor. He was saying, like, at least if I died in the VC camp, my death would have meant something.
Yeah.
And you didn't even give me that choice. And which I think, like, granted, that's a parent's prerogative, but he was like, the first thing you should have done was come in and tell Amanda and Nolan.
Right.
Which they should have done. Like, that would have been a way better move.
Yeah.
Because then they could have controlled the information going to the VC camp.
Right.
And we saw that Nolan and Arissa infiltrated the VC camp quite easily and took out a high priority target. Like, they could have probably freed Alak from his captors, but
But I see both sides to it, though.
Sure.
I see where Alak's coming from, but I also see Daytak doing whatever they felt they had to do, which they are scheming and manipulative, and this is something they felt they had to do to kind of go behind everyone's back to try to get the release of their son.
Yes.
And that's what they felt they had to do. Was it right? No. but that's what they thought they had to do. So I see both sides to it.
Yeah.
But I did like the moment that they were able to have this sort of adult one-on-one discussion with one another about that.
Yeah.
And and how he says that too. They said, "I failed you. I failed our family."
Yeah, and Alak has joined the militia. Thank you. I called that last week.
You did.
And I think Daytak's very like proud of him for that. Like he's Alak might die in this upcoming fight, and he's willing to die protecting Defiance.
Right. Again, putting all of our characters at risk, because at this point, it looks as if Daytak is gonna, die for his crimes here.
Yeah.
He wants to be put on the shaming rack.
Mm-hmm.
And we see that it's happening. Like he's going. It's.
Yeah, they do they do that entire thing, and this was after. It's interesting because it was after Nolan's speech, and Daytak tries to do the same rallying cry of like yelling out Defiance's name, and no one joins him in it.
I know.
Which they did with Nolan.
Yeah.
But also.
Well, because he starts to do it, and I don't want to say it was only because of that, because they know. He's definitely persona non grata right now, and then he starts doing it in his own language.
Yeah, well, because his people are around him.
They are, but he automatically is not, including the rest of the town at that moment when he's starting his own language, and that's why I think then he switches over, and then he thinks he's going to get a little more support, and he still really doesn't. So.
And he apologizes, and he really kind of prostrates himself. And really kind of puts himself out there. And Daytak brings Luke, and he says like, "Here is your father, or your grandfather," and he gets to see him, and which is what Daytak wanted in the first place. And he's like, it's not fair, or like it's. He was not without honor. He might have done a lot of terrible things, but he was not without honor. Also, that baby, great acting, super cute.
Emmy nomination there for that baby.
Super cute. And we see them putting the rocks in, and then we get a cutaway.
Yeah.
We get a cutaway from Daytak's death scene.
Yes.
Which, to me, after watching too much TV and reading too many comic books, the rule is no body, no death.
Yes, if you don't see it, then they're not really.
If there is not a body, there's no death. That doesn't mean that next episode doesn't start with Daytak's funeral or them burying his body. But until that episode,
until you see
the body, he is still alive.
Right,
in my mind.
And you're right, because that's sort of a TV 101 thing. If you don't see the body and you have a cutaway, then there's no death technically.
Yes, until there's a body, and sometimes even if there is a body.
Yeah, they're actually still alive.
But especially in this show, which has a reputation for bringing people back from the death. I don't think Daytak is dead yet.
I don't either, but I think it goes again. I think these are sort of the core characters that would really shake it up, because basically you could do this show from the Taurus perspective.
Yeah,
because there's so much part of it. So it's like I don't see them, Nolan, Orissa, Amanda, or Stama, any of those characters dying off, because those are your leads right there in that sense, and you could tell the story from any of their perspectives. Everyone else is more of the ancillary characters, and you could see them die, and they're close to being the leads. Like Alak, you could see dying. You could see, even Doc Yule. You could see a lot of these very, although to me she's the comedic relief, and we need her. No, I'm saying I would never want her to because she is that comedic relief and has the best lines, bar none, of any character, and so they need her. But I'm saying, like, as being an ancillary character from these four, like, I could see any of those being at risk at any time.
Yeah.
But I can't quite see them being killed off unless you're really just
also
throwing everything out.
What happened to that veterinarian?
I know, right? I know. Yeah, where's he been the last couple episodes? Exactly. It's like he was oddly there, at the bunker with Pottinger, which was weird to begin with, because they needed that extra person there to kind of help in that scene. But now he's not really needed anymore. Is he going to come back?
And he helped with when Nolan and Arissa were having brain issues.
But that's because he was sort of there from that last couple episodes. But now it's like, now they don't need him. What's going to happen with him? Because, it's odd that he came in and they've got to do something without him just kind of disappearing. It wouldn't make any sense either. Yeah. So, they definitely have some holes to fill with some of these characters. But I agree with you. I don't think Daytak is dead yet. But we'll have to see. I mean, that's something we talk about more in predictions. And also don't think Stama is going to be mortally wounded by her injury, because we see her going to be taken care of.
Yeah, I think she's pretty much...
she'll be better.
In this episode, I mean, we saw her. She, that stab, she's fine.
Yeah, Tevin was able to
heal her. I mean, I think she's right now in a mental... she's being tortured mentally, but
and she also just seems to escape every time too, because Kinsey definitely doesn't like her and will do anything to.
Do we want to get into that?
Yeah, we can.
Stama, this is a really screwed up situation. Kenzie's basically torturing her. I thought it was really interesting, that bath scene where it's so many times in this show we've seen Stama use a bath as a way to clean herself from the badness or the things that have happened to her, and we know that they're sacred to her people, and using that as a way to kind of wash away what the negative things that have happened to her. And this time it's completely opposite. She's so powerless, and she's so every time Kenzie's there, it's just she's filled with fear.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's manipulative scared Stama. I think it is Stama is legitimately afraid that Kenzie is going to eat her.
Oh yeah, she's definitely like you're saying about Daytak or Rom Talk as being a loose cannon. She definitely is too, and I mean she point blank says it too. It's be a great honor to devour my father's horror.
Yeah.
And I want you to die frightened. It's she definitely has no use for her, and at any moment she would try to take her out.
Yeah.
Luckily, her father just seems to be there always conveniently at the nick of time every time she tries to do something, for the most part.
Yeah. Kenzie's real screwed up. I guess it's a little bit of the jealousy issue with whether or not Tevgen is her biological father, or father is
father
a
figure,
or father is just a title. But she's very jealous of Stama because Tevgen likes her, and I think it's also a issue with her entire life. She's been told that these other races are lesser than hers, and that they're food, basically.
Yeah.
And now her father is taking this food, and he's treating it, and he's using it by its first name, and he's telling her not to eat the food, and to treat the food with respect, and to obey his orders about the food.
Right.
And all she wants to do is eat this food. and
she doesn't like her anyway. She's
she doesn't like it. It's food that's turned.
She's having this relationship with her dad, and she's not liking that at all.
Her father's spending more time with food than he is with her. We've been in that situation. And it's very interesting from her point of view. At the same time, she's just torturing Stama.
She's basically taking the attention away from her dad, with this, regardless of the food thing or whatever. It comes down to Stama's getting the attention, and she doesn't like it. She doesn't like the fact that her dad's spending time with this other woman, and that she finds a whore and beneath her, and is disgusting, and wants her nothing to do with her dad, and wants her nothing to do with there.
And she's
wants
right.
her out of the picture.
It's a tactical error. If Defiance found out that they were keeping Stama, Defiance would turn against them.
Right, which goes back to, it is a tactical error.
Yeah.
But it still goes back to the fact that I still think they're going to help out when it comes down to it, when this town is under siege.
I mean...
I really do.
Maybe, if Defiance found out that they had Stama, they would try and kill them.
Yeah, exactly.
They're keeping a war criminal. So I don't know if Defiance would accept their help.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting because we know we're right there.
Yeah.
On that line there because we see BB getting the injection because he's Indigene and getting the painful injection to make him look more human.
Yeah.
And
they drill into Defiance.
Yeah, they're drilling under the stasis nets and going right in through the back through the mines and everything. So they're going to be there. And as I was watching, I was like, okay, so they're going to be there by the end of the episode. So they're ready for the next.
And they are. I mean,
the next episode to come in and start attacking.
Yeah, I mean, and at the very end, to really quick end with the Kenzie and Stama thing, Kenzie makes Stama eat like I don't know what it
was. I don't know what it was.
Yeah,
it was like a marble, and then somehow
it turned into like a bright disco ball.
Yeah, and she's like transported.
Is she She's either transported or like hallucinating. Or like being forced to see something.
Yeah, it was odd. I didn't know because I was like, how was it transporter? But at the same time, it was like she was up there with the pods and everything.
I feel like it might be like a forced to like see, like it's like showing her what their ship looks like.
Yeah, it was definitely an odd, and that was the way we ended the episode. It was definitely odd, and I was trying to figure out, was she actually physically transported there as like a purgatory type place to get her out of the picture? Was it just a thing in her head and she's seeing this? Because that would be weird too, because if she's doing that, then she's clearly incapacitated, and therefore Kinsey could have her way with her of eating her or killing her or whatever. So I was trying to figure out it was such a bizarre thing to me. I couldn't quite figure out what they were trying to do, which I guess was
on purpose,
right? No, but I mean, what the purpose of this was exactly.
Well, maybe like if she's not physically on the ship, like it might be like Kenzie's like creative way, like her father said, don't harm her, and she's like, I didn't, I just put her on a ship in her brain,
right?
Like,
just banished her.
I didn't hurt her,
right?
I just took her away out of the picture, like that kind of thing.
Right, that's what I was thinking. It was sort of like a banishment, because I thought it was a way of getting her out of the picture right now, away from her. But I don't know where, or
to terrify her, like to show her that there are so many Omek in orbit, to terrify her and make her see that like this is
the real deal kind of thing.
Like this is what's going on. Like all of these Omek are gonna come in and eat everyone on Earth,
and, like take over and I don't know what everyone else thinks out there, but I was trying to figure that one out and exactly what that meant.
Yeah.
Because that was the last thing we saw before, the episode went to rock. So, I mean, there's a lot of different ways, again, with the predictions here. Should we go into that now?
Well, we didn't get on the Nolan, like with his army that he's training, or anything like that. Like
I mean, because we do start with that. That's true. We start with Nolan training everyone, and Berlin at the time was helping train as well at the beginning of that episode.
And we meet some new characters, Zero and Indur.
And Indur, the father.
And Indur kind of has like this a kind of very interesting point where it's like, you're asking us to risk our children's lives to defend this to defend the city, and your child isn't out here. And and by the end of it, Arissa hears this, and Arissa hears Nolan talk about how, like, it's not fair that he's asking their children to defend the city, and that he believes in his daughter, and that his daughter will defend the city when the time comes. And I feel like Arissa, that's kind of showing Arissa has gotten over her whatever she's suffering from. I feel like when the time comes, when the VC come a knocking, Arissa's gonna fight back.
Right. And it was a good point for the townspeople, because it does sort of have implications of like today, like the social thing. It's like, okay, well, these leaders that won't send their own children to war or don't go fight in the war themselves will send other people and other people's children to go fight the battle for them. And it's a good point, because you see that a lot now. I mean, just here in the U.S. too, the amount of people that are even in the military, ever were in the military, is now at a record low for members of Congress and everybody. And it's easy to then send somebody else's children when it's not your own, or it's not you being personally affected by it.
For sure.
So it was a good point that he does make.
And they call Arissa the amazing goddess of the Badlands from the book.
Yeah. Which is a great nickname.
Yeah, it's a great nickname, and that's a good point. Like the British, like if you're a prince or a king, you have to serve in the military. And
even if you're not on the front lines, but you still have to go.
But you don't get special treatment.
Right,
like,
you still have to go.
You still are in the front. Like you would be in the front lines. Like they don't get special treatment. Like they if you're a prince or a would-be king, like you serve in the military, which I think is kind of cool. Just to be able to say like, oh yeah, there's a king over there.
The future king is over there.
But and like Zero has some skill. He's good at shooting things.
He does. He's not great, but he has definitely good potential.
I mean, he's the best marksman Nolan has ever seen.
Yeah. That has a lot of potential
with a Tommy gun. It looked like so.
Here we go. Bring Tommy back in there.
It's incredible that he's accurate with that. And Nolan comes back and he kind of gives this amazing speech about how, like, it's not fair, but it's the right thing to do. That the strong always have to protect the weak.
The weak, exactly.
And it's their right and it's their privilege to do that. And it's when you have strength, it's what you do with it. Where people like Conrad profit off of that strength.
Exactly.
And use it to kind of cajole and force the weak to give them more power. And where people like Nolan use that strength so that they can protect the weak and make the world a better place. Nolan knows he's not a great guy. Nolan knows that
he's flawed,
that he's killed, and that his nickname has been the Butcher. Like he knows he's not a good guy, but he knows that if he can do his best to make Defiance a better place and to protect Defiance, that good people have a chance to flourish.
Yes.
And that speech was great, and it ended with them like chanting Defiance.
I know, it was like the great political speech, which I have here. Emmy. It was like his Emmy speech right there.
It was a good rally.
It was a very good political speech in that sense. It was like the leader basically, going on with there and saying, right, it's not fair, but it's right. And it was that moment too that he gets to share with Arissa, and he says, "I love you." And we've had the issues which we saw in the previous episodes where they kind of were starting to feel estranged, and they have him kind of come back and feel that love. And she does attempt to try to get back out there.
Yeah. And this is like after her breakdown when she imagines the target is Tommy.
Yeah. Sometimes she tries to get back out there, but it doesn't quite work.
And I think that is the turning point for Arissa's character now. Is like she realizes that because she asks at the beginning, like, why is this the only way? Why do people go to war? Why are they killing each other? Which is a great question, which no one has any answers to.
And it is a great question. Like, why do we solve it this way?
Yes, but I think what Nolan is trying to say is like, you have the power to protect people. You should do that. Like, if you have that power, you should do it.
And he doesn't really have the answer to that, but he says you should. And but I also think it was a good moment for her, for the townspeople to see that she really does have issues, and she's not shirking responsibility or not fighting, be protected.
Or
she
scared,
has legitimate issues here that preclude her from fighting. So it was good that the townspeople were able to see this as well.
Yeah.
So they know, like, okay. And then when he has that speech, it's like, okay, well, and she will, and I do think she will get better. And when push comes to shove, she's going to be out there.
Yeah.
Protecting Defiance in any way she can, even if that means having to resort to violence, which she doesn't want to do. When push comes to shove, and she's got to protect her town and her townspeople.
Yeah. I think that will happen as well, for sure. I think that brings us to predictions.
Yes.
Oh, Kenzie's fast. I just saw that. She's super fast. When Stomach gets up and tries to run away from her, like, she vampires the other direction.
She does.
Yeah.
Yeah, and force feeds that whatever.
Yeah, it looked like the things that they voted.
It did. I have it like I have like marble, pebble.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. It was very odd indeed.
It looked like a Moncala piece. Or a Junior's Mint.
A Junior's Mint. Ooh.
Yeah.
That makes me hungry. All right, so we'll move into predictions then.
Sweet.
Your AFTERBUZZ TV predictions.
Ooh,
It's so quick now.
The fast one.
Yeah, the fast one with no Crazy lights.
Yeah.
So yeah, what do you think? I mean, we're at this turning point here with the rest of the season. This is now going into the second part of the season, which it just feels like a big lead up. It also feels like, wow, we still have a lot of episodes left.
There's a lot to sift through.
Yeah, because you feel like, you know, 1 or 2 more episodes they could be wrapped out.
Yeah. So next episode, VC attack.
Right. We've been waiting for this, and it's going to happen.
They're invading Defiance.
Yes.
I think Daytak will get freed from his bonds by the VC.
Interesting, by the VC. I just figured he would be freed because they were going to need his help, or in the chaos of them attacking, he was going to be able to escape.
I think the VC are going to free him from his bonds.
Interesting.
And that the general is going to have him like by his side, be like, look what I'm doing to your town, and like he's going to, at the last moment, Daytak's just going to stab him because the general has his vibro knife. I think Daytak's going to take his vibro knife back from him and stab him, and save the day.
Yeah.
And maybe die then.
Right, like die in a different way than what we think.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think Stama is going to continue being tortured. I think I don't think she's physically on the ship. I think she's like somehow being mentally controlled, because it looked like kind of one of the things that Doc Yule used to
with the sort of like the drone thing where it's like she's sort of in. It's an interesting point because I honestly don't know where she is exactly, because it was such a weird and such a quick cut that it was like, is she really bandaged up there, or is it all in her mind?
I think that Tevgen's gonna kill a couple VC because they get in his way, but he's not gonna help out at all, and that there's gonna be a moment where it's gonna look like Defiance is gonna lose, but that's when Daytak turns the tide and they win.
Yeah, do you think and Alec too? Like what?
I think Alac's gonna do great, and I think he's going to become like one of the new law keepers.
Right, I do think that too, because I think it kind of set itself up from the previous episodes when he was getting closer to Nolan.
Yeah.
And now we kind of need another one because Berlin's out of the picture.
I think Berlin and Conrad are going to run into the VC and get slaughtered.
Interesting. So you think they're going to be killed off that quickly?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did wonder what was going to happen to Berlin, but I didn't think it was going to end well because I felt like as soon as she left town, it was basically like she was setting herself up to be killed. Do you feel that this is going to be multi-episode, or is it like, because it just seems odd that they'd be able to neatly tie it all up next episode with this build-up of this war?
I think it's going to be I think it's going to be one episode. I think it's going to be next episode, and then the main villain of this season is going to be the Olmec.
Interesting. I like your theories because I still feel like the OMAC are going to help out and be good. So,
all right.
Only time will tell. We'll have to see with next week's episode. And thanks for tuning in, everyone. Where can they find you again, Jesse?
You can find me at JessKlein1 on Twitter. That's JessKlein, the number 1. And then on Tuesdays from 1 to 3, me and my buddy Robert Chan play old video games in the Video Game Vault on YouTube. So you guys can see us be terrible at old video games.
Nice. And you can find me on Twitter at SMAN80. That's SMAN80. And here next week for the season finale of Orange is the New Black. Have a good week, everyone. And definitely follow us on YouTube, on SoundCloud, on iTunes. Until next week. Bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.